Hi friends, and welcome back to the Parkinson's Disease Education Podcast. In this episode, we're going to be talking about a topic that's rather sensitive, but it's very important to talk about for multiple reasons. But the chief reason being it's something that could actually impact your safety. We're talking about a non-motor symptom of Parkinson's disease, and particularly what we're discussing is incontinence. Be sure to stick around until the other side of the intro. We're going to be diving into that topic and a lot more. Let's go. Welcome to the Parkinson's Disease Education Show, where we demystify the disease and empower you as the person with Parkinson's disease to reach your true potential. The content contained on this show is for informational purposes only and is not meant to be a replacement for information or advice that you receive from your in-person medical or therapy professionals. If you haven't already, I hope you'll consider subscribing, and for an even more personalized experience, please ask us about our memberships. Now, without further ado, let's start the show. So why are we going to discuss incontinence? Well, as I mentioned in the intro, safety is a big aspect of incontinence. And that's not the only thing we're going to be discussing today. I want to go into a little bit of the pathology involved in Parkinson's disease and why really incontinence is something that tends to happen with Parkinson's in the first place. Then I'd like to go into a little bit more of how it will impact safety, as well as issues like sleep problems. Really, that's to say that it can contribute to existing sleep problems, and that can make the days even worse. Whether you're dealing with incontinence or not, or you're a caregiver of a person with Parkinson's disease who's dealing with this issue, you're going to want to stick around for this episode to find out as much as possible. I'm also going to be including a potential solution to the problem, particularly as it pertains to nighttime incontinence. So let's talk about causes of incontinence first. So because Parkinson's disease involves the loss of dopamine producing neurons, and that lack of dopamine results in not only issues at times with initiating movement when you want to move, but it also results in problems inhibiting movements that you don't want to happen. So that can be examples of things like dystonia, where you have intractable muscle contractions that you can't do anything about, you can't make them relax. Tremor is another example. And you can also have issues like festinating, where you're losing your balance while walking. You can't stop, though, from moving forward. So in order to avoid falling, you continue to walk forward at a rapid pace until you are able to reach a stopping point, which usually literally is something solid that you can push up against. Now, like many organs in the body, the bladder has what's called smooth muscle that lines the bladder. Now, particularly in the case of the bladder, we have the detrusor muscle, and that muscle is responsible for contracting and essentially contributing to the emptying of the bladder once it's full and once you're starting to void. Now, if you recall what I just said a moment ago about inhibition, the detrusor muscle can be a muscle that can be negatively impacted by Parkinson's in the sense that it can become overly active. So think of it as a spasm, essentially, of the bladder muscle. So you can have overactive bladder type syndromes that can result, and then that will result in problems like urinary urgency, frequency, and urgent incontinence. And it's worth noting that this can happen whether the bladder is full or not full. The second aspect of this is the autonomic nervous system breakdown that happens with Parkinson's disease. You've heard me talk about this many times. It affects blood pressure regulation, heart rate, rhythm regulation, all these different functions. Well, bladder control is one of these functions. And so when you have an issue that results in autonomic nervous system degradation, like in Parkinson's, there are urinary symptoms that can occur alongside these other non-motor symptoms like constipation, orthostatic hypotension, sexual dysfunction, and so forth. So this is another autonomic nervous system anomaly, if you will, or abnormality that can happen with Parkinson's, where you essentially lose the proper control over time, or you can, with the bladder. So going along with the theme of the first issue of having the detrusor muscle being overactive, you can have a reduced ability to delay urination, meaning once you have the signal, you've got an urgency to get there as soon as possible. Like, I've only got 30 seconds, I gotta go. So again, that's classic urge incontinence, which can happen because of the issues we talked about in number one. Now, the next problem that can happen is that, and again, a couple of these are tying in with safety in just a minute, but the other issue you can have in making it to the bathroom on time is you may have some urgency or feel like you need to go, but you can't walk fast enough to get there in time. So remember what I just said a minute ago, I've only got 30 seconds. Well, it took you 2.5 minutes to walk there. Maybe. I'm just exaggerating, but you know what I mean? I mean, you're going to be slower at times with walking. You may have difficulty in walking, and unfortunately that may result in you not making it on time. This could also include issues of getting out of bed on time as well. It may not just be walking, it might be initiating a transfer to get up and walk to the bathroom. Any of those parts could break down and result in the issue of not making it on time. In medical terms, refer to that as functional incontinence, where it's not an incontinence of necessarily 100% control issues, but that you knew you needed to go, but you just couldn't get there in time. A problem that comes along with Parkinson's in particular is called nocturia, or nighttime urination problems. Now, bladder overactivity that we discussed earlier could contribute to this, but the other issue is that wearing off of Parkinson's medications, if you're on carbidopa, levodopa, wearing off of levodopa can result in more of these problems happening, especially at night. And when do most people not take their medications? Typically, you don't take Parkinson's meds overnight. Now, there are exceptions to that, obviously. But many people that stop their levodopa, or they only take it at bedtime, for example, and not during the night, they may have some other medication that helps bridge the gap, something like amantadine or long-acting amantadine like Gocovri. But in the absence of any of those extra medications, a lot of times this nocturnal urination can happen. So people can be getting up every hour on the hour to go to the bathroom because they feel like they need to go, even if they don't need to go that much. So it creates that urgency, overactive bladder symptoms, all that kind of thing. So basically that can be exacerbated or worse overnight. Nighttime bedwetting, unfortunately, is a big problem in the Parkinson's population. Not only that, but just the sleep disturbance of having to get up every hour on the hour or every couple of hours. However the frequency is, it's a lot and it disturbs your sleep terribly. So that's a problem we're going to get into in a little bit. But constipation also makes urinary incontinence issues worse. Frequently in kids, and I can attest to this from personal experience with my children, is that a lot of times if your kids get backed up, they may start having urinary accidents more frequently. And so don't just think of it as a bladder problem. It can also be a problem of constipation, and honestly, you could literally have physical compression against the bladder by a full rectum or other parts of the intestinal tract. So dealing with constipation can also contribute to potentially improving the incontinence issues. It goes without saying you can also have pelvic floor dysfunction, and some of the reasons that can happen are because of what we already talked about. You can have problems with tone, muscle tone issues, either a lack of tone from poor muscle activation or perhaps an increase in tone because of lack of inhibition problems that come with Parkinson's. But the bottom line is you can have stiff, poorly coordinated pelvic floor muscles. They could also have weakness, or they might be too slow to relax. So you may have incomplete emptying, which can also contribute to issues with incontinence. Also, because of some of the previous issues we discussed, you can have difficulty emptying completely. So that could be pelvic floor issues. It could be because of a lack of coordination between the bladder and the urinary sphincter, all those things. How you might know you're dealing with issues of incomplete emptying would be symptoms of weak stream, hesitancy when trying to urinate, stopping and starting while urinating, and also literally feeling like you're not emptying out. Any residual urine can also result in overflow incontinence at a later time. So last 2 points here. Medications can contribute to this problem as well, and I don't mean Parkinson's medications necessarily. Folks are often on multiple medications for different health conditions. So for example, if you have high blood pressure, you may be on a diuretic, a water pill. That can make you go more frequently, and it just exacerbates the problem. Sedatives are also a problem because you may be less aware of the need to go, especially if you're sleeping more heavily. And medications causing confusion can be an issue, or some psychiatric medications can do that. And you can also have issues with medications causing constipation, which ironically Parkinson's medications can contribute to constipation issues as well. The last point is cognitive changes. Now, cognitive changes could result in lack of awareness of needing to go to the bathroom. So there's reduced attention to that issue. You may have that signal from the brain and the body talking to each other, but there's slower processing of what it means, what that sensation means. And then impaired executive function, meaning what are the steps that I need to take in order to get to the bathroom, etc. The biggest concern for me as a clinician is safety, because incontinence issues can cause rushing to the bathroom. So you might be slower than you want to be. Your steps aren't as good as they want to be because of the Parkinson's. You might be rushing, and that can lead to falls. And also, the nighttime incontinence issues can lead to falls as well, because if you're frequently getting up in the middle of the night, not only may you have some of those mobility problems as you're trying to get up and go to the bathroom frequently, but because of some of the reasons we discussed earlier with certain medications, let's say sleep medications, or you're taking pain medications, whatever it might be, some medications' direct side effects or interactions with other drugs can result in confusion, dizziness, and things like that when you get up. And so that can contribute even more to fall risk. If you injure yourself while falling, particularly something drastic like a hip fracture, your chances of recovering go way down, and your longevity with Parkinson's is going to be way shortened. So there's definitely things you can do about urinary incontinence. And again, there are multiple causes. Parkinson's is not the only cause of urinary incontinence, but it can definitely contribute to it and exacerbate existing problems that may be leading to incontinence. So one thing that can be helpful is pelvic floor therapy. That's something I highly suggest as a physical therapist, because it can be very helpful, whether it's too much tone or too little tone, affecting the issues. That's certainly one thing. Medication reviews, so that you can see if there are ways of potentially making adjustments that could help to contribute to less frequency or urgency of urinating, things like that. And for a lot of people, the reality may be that you need some sort of incontinence underwear. I would highly suggest looking into LivDry as an example of a trusted, really well-known product for incontinence underwear. For nighttime, you're going to need really high absorbency capability. And a lot of briefs just don't have that, the ones that are on the market right now. I actually personally am working with somebody right now who is incontinent enough that he wets through regular briefs in the daytime from hour to hour. So absorbency is really important. Just as a brief comparison, LivDry compared to competitors has the highest leak protection with barrier leg cuffs. They're comfortable, being soft and cloth-like rather than feeling like plastic. The absorbency starts at high up to the highest levels of absorbency capable on the market. That means that less changes are required, which not only saves you money on product, but also less need to just be getting up, changing clothes, changing the brief, and etc. You may not require bed pads with using these products. You also will likely have less need for deodorizers. So you might be saying, great, I'm gonna wear a brief the rest of my life. You know what, it's not a fun thing. But it definitely can be something that can, of course, save dignity, especially out in a public place. I really want to tie it back into safety and what I was talking about earlier, particularly with the nighttime urination issues. If you can have a brief that has the heavy enough absorbency so that you don't have to get up in the night to go to the bathroom, number one. Number two, if it's drastic enough, LivDry does provide adult diapers as well. And I know that sounds even worse than briefs, but hear me out for a second. I had a patient in the last couple of years, and he still does this to my knowledge. When he moved into assisted living, one of the things I identified was that he was getting up so frequently at night that it was really making his days horrible. And I can attest to the safety aspect of this because he had multiple falls in the night trying to get up and scramble to go to the bathroom, and also struggling to change himself in the night. He was wearing briefs and they just weren't cutting it. So the assisted living DON suggested using an adult diaper so that he literally did not have to worry about getting up in the night, it would not leak, etc. And what actually ended up happening was that he started sleeping all the way through the night. Even though he has Parkinson's, which can result in sleep issues, his sleeping all the way through the night transformed his days so that where he was able to make a ton of progress with function, and his therapy progress was fantastic. So it really did make a true difference for him, and it could definitely make that kind of a difference for you. If you're interested in checking out LivDry in particular, I have a link that I put in the description below where you can check their products out. And also I may put a card up in the corner as well so that you can access it a little bit easier. So some key takeaways as we conclude. Parkinson's affects the brain, the autonomic nervous system, and the bladder. It's not just a movement problem. This is an entire system issue that can happen that can result in incontinence. Most common problem we talked about earlier is overactive bladder, though mobility challenges like freezing, slower movement can actually cause what we called functional incontinence earlier, and also can contribute to the safety hazards and increased fall risk that can come along with this issue. Remember, constipation, pelvic floor dysfunction, medications, and changes in cognition can all contribute to issues with urinary incontinence. And lastly, the bottom line is this is treatable. And even if you can't cure the problem of incontinence, there are adaptive products that can be used to help not only make the days easier, but that can make the nights much more restful and much safer, like LivDry that we discussed earlier. Let me know what's helped you or a loved one with Parkinson's with this issue, and let me know in the comments. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Look forward to coming back and doing the next episode with you. As always, be empowered. Catch you next time.